Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast. And unfortunately, it's been Assassination Attempt number 2. Oh, this is getting crazy. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back. Right Guys podcast. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. It's crazy. We have to do another one of these episodes.
I saw it happen last night. I was like, do I call Max? Do we go on? Or is there going to be enough to do an hour on or anything? And just put it off until the day. It was
the last time we did this, there wasn't a lot of information on the kid. Yeah. And they're still trying to memory hold that information on the kid to continue to say, we don't know why he could have possibly have done this, even though we have a good idea of why anyone would do this, right? What we've said from the very beginning is that the narrative that the left has put out about Trump, very obviously, this is the logical conclusion of that. When you paint Donald Trump to be an existential threat to democracy itself, eventually you get people who believe that lie and decide that they're going to save democracy. This guy, was it Ryan Ruth?
How do I pronounce that?
Ryan
Ralph?
Wesley Ruth?
Ruth?
Ralph?
Or Ralph? I'm going to go with Ruth just because I don't think it's Ralph. But again, we just want to
I've heard it pronounced both ways. I heard it pronounced both ways. But he is not like a mystery. We know exactly who this person is.
Yeah.
He is a rabid leftist. He claimed on social media that he voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and can't stomach the idea of doing it again, right? That was one of his posts. And that led the left to say, oh, he is a Trump supporter. He's a Trump supporter. He's a Trump supporter. Well, they've pulled his voter history and he didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016. He didn't vote for anyone in 2016. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. That was a lie.
Yeah. Did you see that the social screwed him? I mean, you go to Facebook, you start trying to look for that. There's nothing. Like, that happened pretty quick. I mean, even though, he's, the internet is forever. People have captured that stuff. And there's pretty damning things he put out there a long time ago. But boy, was there a rush to make sure that this goes away. I was just opening up like Google search or Bing or any one of those search engines. And I was just trying to figure out, I was asking, more information about Ruth and the second assassination attempt. And boy, did I have to jump through hoops just to get it to autofill second assassination attempt, right? You want to talk about memory holding? This thing's almost trying to disappear before it even ended. And that's how I feel. It's been a quick cleanup, Max. Quick.
Here is his Twitter, which it was taken down. But it was up long enough for people, and he went under his name. So it's very easy for people to immediately find this. He had tweeted at Joe Biden, said, your campaign should be called something like KADAF, Keep America Democratic and Free. Trump should be Massa, Make Americans Slaves Again. Master.
Goodness, what the heck?
Democracy is on the ballot, and we cannot lose. We cannot afford to fail. The world is counting on us to show the way. So this isn't even like a hypothesis. The narrative from the left that said democracy itself is on the ballot, meaning democracy ends if Donald Trump wins.
Yeah.
We know that he consumed that propaganda.
Sure.
We know that he consumed it and it drove him.
Yeah.
It drove him to tweet it. He tweeted democracy is on the ballot. So this isn't like, I wonder if this had anything to do with this. We know why he went to try and take a shot at Donald Trump. Democracy is on the ballot and we cannot lose. We cannot afford to fail. The world is counting on us to show the way.
What? Since 2016, it's been the narrative that they've been pushing. I mean, I remember sitting there in college courses in 16 and people just saying that it's just too important. He's just too dangerous. And it hasn't stopped. And we're shocked now that people would say such things. I mean, the left's like, oh my goodness, there's no way that somebody would go that far. But here we are. What did it take Kamala 72 hours after the first assassination attempt to go after and use the same rhetoric? She waited 3 whole days, and it's been 64-ish days since the last attempt. Yeah. Live in a country where my political party leaders are being attempted in assassinations.
It's exhausting.
This is something different now, though. This is different.
Yeah. It's exhausting because after the Trump assassination attempt, the left, the first one, the left tried to say, okay, we need to lower the temperature.
Yeah.
Then it became clear that their idea of lowering the temperature was actually that Donald Trump needs to lower his temperature, which is remarkable because Democrats tend to be the party that's opposed to victim shaming and blaming.
Yeah.
You talk to a liberal and you say something like, oh, well, yeah, that person was raped, but they probably shouldn't have worn that provocative dress. They will scream at you, right?
Yeah.
And rightly so. You can't blame someone for calling attention to themselves like that. But the left has always been against victim blaming. Now with Trump, we're seeing the ultimate attempt to victim blame. Here is one headline from the Cincinnati Enquirer. Trump brings these assassination attempts on himself.
How though?
When Donald Trump continues to lie about losing the 2020 election and legal immigrants in Springfield, he brings the crazies out, and one of those crazies tried to shoot him.
What the?
Here's another headline from Time. The suspect arrested in relation to the shooting at Trump's golf course in Florida on Sunday has been identified as Ryan Routh, a 58-year-old with unclear political ideology, a criminal record, and a history of praising Iran and supporting Ukraine.
Wow. What?
I believe the history of praising Iran was him wanting Iran to assassinate Trump.
I love the part of unclear political ideology. Now,
yes,
the back must hurt from carrying all that water, man.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
Yes. Here's Politico's headline. Republicans outraged over possible assassination attempt. They are going to keep trying to kill Trump. Republicans are the only ones outraged? I mean, the headline says the quiet part out loud. The Democrats aren't outraged.
Yeah. 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 I mean, oh my gosh. I've never seen anything like this, man. Like, this is almost yellow journalism at this point. Wow.
Here's Washington Post. Washington Post headline: another chance for Trump to frame Democrats as dangerous has emerged.
They've been doing nothing but doing that to him. He came down the escalator. Oh, this
guy, Philip Bump. This guy, Philip Bump. You might not remember him.
No,
but
I don't.
He is the journalist who walked out of a podcast when he was confronted with the question of what about this Hunter Biden text message that he has to give 50% of his earnings to his father.
So what do you take from the text message to his adult daughter? Hunter's text message, I have to give 50% of my income to Pop.
I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what that means.
Well, it's
I know it's circumstantial evidence, and you prefer that.
No,
to
what could it be?
I have no idea.
But doesn't it?
I don't know.
Well,
I appreciate your.
Has anybody asked her?
I don't know. I don't know.
Don't you think somebody should ask her?
Okay. Like I'm not. I just said I don't know, and I don't know what to make of it, so I have nothing to say about it.
Yeah,
what do you want me to say?
Yeah, but you say there's no evidence, but then there's a text message where he says, "I give Pop 50% of my money." That's evidence.
Okay. Well, okay, fine.
So
it's evidence. I appreciate you having me on.
It doesn't. That something like that.
Is he out?
Who do you think is being more? I listen to that and I'm saying,
am I?
You can free to go.
I feel you want me to leave, like just walk out in the middle of this because that way you can.
You can go.
Right.
Is this a standard? Really, this is the way the Washington Post handles people who disagree with them.
When I agree to be on for 45 minutes,
go,
and then
go.
I get on for an hour and 15. Yeah, that after a while I go.
Go.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. Well, again, his back must hurt carrying all that water for the party. Wow. They've got an army, dude.
I know. And this this narrative, I mean, we just showed it, but the Time magazine, unclear political ideology. You pulled the image. I have the image ready to go.
Yeah.
This is the front of his house in Hawaii, his truck. And if you zoom in on that truck,
wait a
what
minute.
do you see? See the Biden-Harris bumper sticker.
Cha-ching!
Unclear political ideology. The man's putting bumper stickers on his car.
I mean, all they have to do is do a little investigative journalism here to find that, right? And they're just trying to suppress it as much as possible. I mean, it's part of that whole deflect and obfuscate the truth. You can see it. It's right there.
The minute his name was revealed, and it was revealed that he was in Hawaii, real journalists, I don't know which outfit got this picture, but they just called their photographer or their journalist at their Hawaii syndicate
field office,
right? Field office, and said, "Hey, drive past his house and get a picture." This wasn't in-depth surveillance. They drove past the house and took a picture of his car.
And I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how anybody could just miss that, right? Like you're the Times. You're telling me that was it Time with it, or was it the Times? Either one. You're telling me your top-notch reporters couldn't do this? They couldn't even do like a Google Earth and just check out and see if that's it there, right? I mean, the evidence was there, but they don't want the evidence. Why would they want to suppress this one so fast? There's so much going on here, man. My mind has been racing since the attempt happened because there's a lot of coincidences. There's a lot of interesting things this dude has put out.
Here's what the Associated Press put out yesterday. Suspect involved in incident at Trump's golf club was unarmed when taken into custody. Yeah, because he dumped his rifle.
Yeah.
And ran away.
And got into a car.
Why would that be the headline? Why?
Why?
You're trying to create the impression that there wasn't an assassination attempt.
Yeah. Yeah, and boy, is it transparent at this point? Do people see it, or is this still working? Right, this is obviously propaganda, but is it still working, Max? And that's the scary part, because I think to some degree it is. Because you got enough loonies out there that want to jump in and believe on this. I mean, it's like they're making their own little chaotic army. Remember The Dark Knight? Great movie.
Yeah.
The Joker in that one was just all about chaos, right? And that's what this is. It's all about chaos. Because if you make the whole thing chaotic, nobody can follow the story, right? Nobody can get all the pieces together. There won't even be a real investigation. Hopefully the Florida police actually do it, because I never heard DeSantis is going to send them out, because I think even he feels like there's so much suppression here that there's not going to find anything until they do their own investigation, right? A different record.
You mentioned The Dark Knight, and the line that immediately comes to mind was the line that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Yeah.
Right. Which again is a crazy line considering how it fits into this. I want to show you this tweet. This is from 2016. David Plouffe. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is now a senior advisor to Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. He said in 2016, it's not enough to simply beat Trump. He must be destroyed thoroughly. His kind must not rise again.
That sounds like a call to arms.
Yeah.
That sounds like a call to arms. But it sure does. I mean, what is he must be destroyed thoroughly? What does that not represent? Like destroyed how? Politically? Or did he mean physically? Or did he mean financially?
Everything.
Or lawfare? Right? I mean, that's like
this is Congressman Goldman not too long ago on MSNBC.
It is just unquestionable at this point that man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
Oh my! Why would you?
I mean, it feels like this is Groundhog Day because we already played a lot of these clips for Trump assassination attempt number 1. But we're on assassination attempt number 2, Electric Boogaloo. So we got to play all these clips. Again, because they still exist. They still exist. Here's Stacey Plaskett.
Trump not only have had the codes, but now having the classified information for Americans and being able to put that out and share it in his resort with anyone and everyone who comes through should be terrifying to all Americans, and he needs to be stopped.
He needs to be shot. Whoa, 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 whoa!
He needs to be shot. I mean, stopped.
Stopped. Oh my goodness, man. So this Trump derangement syndrome that they said doesn't exist, right? Is it real? I mean, have they created a mental health issue centered around a figure, right? I mean, it sounds like stuff that's been used before in like other totalitarian governments, but I mean, they've created a boogeyman out of Trump, right? That's the first thing you do when you want to go after your political enemies is you make them the boogeyman. There's no right that they can do. We know where this leads, right? We know where this leads.
And this was Lester Holt. Lester Holt on NBC, I guess, MSNBC or NBC. He was blaming this assassination attempt on Trump because Trump has amplified what Springfield, Ohio is going through and how the Haitian illegal aliens turned TPS migrants are doing to that town. He blamed that on Trump's assassination attempt, not the migrants, but that Trump had dared call them out.
Apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail itself. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Ohio. This weekend, there were new bomb threats in that town. Our Maggie Vespa is in Columbus, Ohio, with more.
Lester, simply put, Springfield, Ohio has been inundated by threats.
That's the lead story, right? Like, oh, Donald Trump was almost assassinated, but he deserved it because the increased rhetoric is actually caused by him.
Right. With that Haitian talk.
No one supports bomb threats. I mean, it's stupid. Chances are these are kids. I mean, if I had to guess who did this, it would probably be kids, the swatting generation, or leftists calling it in so they can say, oh, look at the Trumpers. Look what the MAGA people are doing.
Right.
Never met anyone who believes that would be necessary at all. And it makes no sense, right? Why would you call a bomb threat against a hospital because the Biden administration is dumping tens of thousands of migrants into a town? It makes no sense whatsoever, right? So it's not even like something where you can say, oh, we went too far. It has no connection whatsoever to calling out the culinary preferences of Haitian migrants. I mean, it makes there's no connection at all. But that's what Lester Holt and MSNBC ran with.
Just complete and utter lie. I mean, and this is one of the big three. You know, that's one of the big old three that people watched for their nightly news. This is people who are there are people listening to this, using this as the basis to which they vote. Right? That's the other scary part, is that they're not just putting out the propaganda, that people are believing it.
Yeah.
Like, right? And that's a scary prospect because it's not going to slow down. How many days until the election? If you think assassination attempt number 2 is crazy, wait until later.
So this is the book that this guy wrote.
Oh my God.
Ryan Rath, Ukraine's unwinnable war, the fatal flaw of democracy, world abandonment, and the global citizen, Taiwan, Afghanistan, North Korea, and the end of humanity. Not very well received. 1-star review.
By one person.
Not very well received. But here is one section of the book. I would like to celebrate the amazing work of John Kerry that very humbly and humanly handled the Iran deal, which elated me and the whole world. I must take part of the blame for the retarded child that we elected for our next president that ended up being brainless. But I am man enough to say that I misjudged and made a terrible mistake in Iran. I apologize. You are free to assassinate Trump as well as me for that error in judgment and the dismantling of the deal. This guy put into writing Iran, you are free to assassinate Trump. So we go back, right? We go back to this headline. Where was it? Which one was it? It was the Politico one, wasn't
radicalism.
it? Where is the Politico one? I have it up here.
It's just pure
Here
radicalism.
We go. So they said his unclear political ideology and a history of praising Iran. The praising Iran is telling Iran, please assassinate Trump.
Holy
so they were able to figure that part out, right? But they characterize that as unclear political influences. It's insane.
Unbelievable that our show does better reporting than the Times or any one of them, right? I mean, that or what was that? It was for Lester Holt, right? Unbelievable. The radicalism here is what's really grabbing me, right? This is like a manifesto that he printed. No, it's not, because he's not saying he's going to go do it
unless he was registered to vote elsewhere. The voter record that we have suggests that he didn't vote in 2016. So unless he was registered to vote elsewhere, the record that we've been able to find and others have been able to find doesn't show him voting for Trump in 2016. It just doesn't.
Well, anywhere like Hawaii or where's the other state he's from? Florida, right?
North Carolina and Hawaii, I guess.
Interesting. Well, he moves around a lot. He's got a crazy book where he actually calls for Iran to assassinate Trump. Like there's a lot here to unpack, and none of it's being reported. Do you think it's going to be mentioned in the next debate?
No. And this is the thing. This is the thing, right? We mentioned on the show how shocked we were that the assassination attempt wasn't mentioned. Wasn't a question. Donald Trump had to bring it up, but it wasn't one of the moderators' questions. We've since learned through an affidavit that's been signed by allegedly someone within ABC News. They've redacted their identification, their name, and everything, so they don't face reprisals. But they've signed an affidavit. It was dated a day before the debate. They sent it to Mike Johnson in Congress, and they've sent it to themselves and everything, alleging that Kamala Harris and her team got the debate questions in advance, got sample questions that were essentially the questions, and that Kamala Harris's team negotiated without Trump and his people there, that there would be no question about Joe Biden's mental health, right? They negotiate questions that would be off limits, right? So it's very clear why there was no question during that debate about the assassination attempt, but you have to wonder, if there was a question, whether this assassination attempt, most recent, number 2, would have happened, right? Because if they had asked Kamala Harris about the assassination attempt, what would you have gotten on stage? You would have gotten her saying assassination attempts are wrong. We decry political violence. You would have gotten the rehashed talking points, which again, to me, I continue to have struggled to understand how Donald Trump can be an existential threat to the United States and the world. Also, we wish him well and we hope he recovers soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to square that circle.
It sure is. Especially
but you got it.
Well, I was gonna say all that evangelism, right? And they're the party of making awareness. You think that they would try to make aware that you shouldn't go after your political opponents, and that should be something that we recognize here in the US, right?
Yes.
Because that's what we do. And make people aware of that. Make it, one of the things that people might write about in college, but they don't. They'd rather have the propaganda because it serves the purpose of power. Hate this. You're pissing me off today. Not you, but the whole thing.
Kamala Harris on stage, even if you know it's like half-hearted, even if you think she really doesn't mean it, her on stage looking into the camera saying, "Do not assassinate Donald Trump. Assassination attempts are bad. Violence has no place. We're going to beat him at the ballot box." You have to wonder, does this crazed leftist still go through with his attempted assassination if he gets that instruction from Kamala Harris? Maybe he still does. Maybe he doesn't, right? But I know for certain, without that moment from a debate where Kamala Harris can to denounce any political violence,
she doesn't.
You want to talk about stochastic terrorism, which is what the left accuses Trump of doing. That's been Kamala Harris's entire campaign, trying to sick the crazies on Donald Trump. And instead, I want to put up this image of of this guy, Ryan Routh, he was, to say he was pro-Ukraine is an understatement. This is a man who isn't just pro-Ukraine. He actually flew to Ukraine and worked to try and recruit foreigners to join Ukraine's Foreign Legion. This is someone who said he said he would die for Ukraine, and he was trying to get people from around the world to come to Ukraine to also die for Ukraine. Right? Because essentially that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to feed the meat grinder. He talked to the New York Times, and he told them he had a big plan to take Afghan fighters, like government, like the pro-government side, not the Taliban, to bring them into Ukraine by getting them fake passports in Pakistan so that then they could join the Ukrainian army to fight against Russia. That was his big plan. He told the New York Times this because he said Pakistan is so corrupt he can get those passports all day long. This is a man so pro-Ukraine, you can see from this image, he actually dyed his hair yellow and blue.
I see that in a lot of the videos and other pictures I've seen. This is the case. He's wearing that on his sleeve. I mean, he's dyed his hair. I just thought maybe there was a like a weird
this
weird
is
thing
a guy
going on.
who is,
Oh my gosh!
So pro-Ukraine, he said he would die for it. He went over there and actually helped. He was in propaganda videos for Ukrainian battalions and things like that. He was over there trying to do recruiting. Now, this is the weird thing. Any American who goes overseas in that capacity and comes back is surveilled. You can't go overseas to recruit for a foreign nation's army and come back and not get put on a list. So this is where I'm wondering, where are the FISA warrants here, right? I mean, anytime a Trump supporter goes overseas and talks to anyone, their FISA courts immediately authorize spying on them and spying on everyone that they talk to. But this guy is talking about fake passports in Pakistan to bring Afghan fighters to Ukraine so they can enter the meat grinder. And we're not getting he was known to law enforcement. But here's the thing.
Yeah,
He's so pro-Ukraine. As I mentioned at the debate, you didn't have the moment of Kamala Harris saying assassinations are bad. Instead, what you got was Donald Trump. They asked Donald Trump about the Ukraine war, and Trump said, too many people are dying. This is stupid. We need to end the war. Kamala Harris spun that to say that Donald Trump wants Ukraine to lose. That was the spin from Kamala Harris, from the mainstream media, and from the far left, that Donald Trump wants Ukraine to lose. You want to know what probably caused this guy to try and kill the 45th and likely 47th president of the United States? Look at what he's most passionate about. He's most passionate about Ukraine. He painted his hair blue and yellow. He went over there to help recruit. He tried to create a whole fraud scheme to get more soldiers for the meat grinder. He's sitting at home last week, watching the debate, hearing his champion, Josh, hearing his champion, Kamala Harris, not his champion right there on his bumper sticker. His champion says Donald Trump wants Ukraine to lose the war. And he looks at his mission. Remember his book that only got one-star review, panned book, but he worked so hard on it, right?
Yeah.
His life's work going down the shitter. So what does he do? Oh, I can't have Donald Trump force Ukraine to lose the war. So what does he get? He goes out and grabs a rifle. A lot of reporting that it is a AK style rifle. At first, I thought it maybe was a Sega Sporter because it had like a Monte Carlo kind of stock, but it actually looks like it's an SKS dropped into a polymer. Have you seen the pictures of it?
No, I haven't seen it, but I know the difference between the two enough to know that people have even found ways to jimmy a AK magazine into SKSs. So, different version of the rifle. Okay. I was wondering what those pictures were.
Yeah, so it looks kind of like a Sega Sporter, but what what it actually looks like is an SKS. An SKS in a drop-in kind of polymer stock with a banana clip on it. But again, this is a Soviet bloc rifle that he would have been comfortable with in Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine has a ton of these, right? A ton of these. These aren't the frontline rifles, right? They're not charging Russian positions with these. But these are backline 100%.
Yeah.
100%. You have people in Ukrainian cities far from the front lines. You know what they're walking around with? SKSs and Mosin Nagants.
Yeah.
Because they're so plentiful. They have millions of these things.
This guy's a roofer? Like that's his profession?
So he makes
roofer?
I think he makes tiny homes. He makes tiny homes in Hawaii. So
that's his gig. He makes tiny homes, and suddenly he just goes from like a tiny home builder to getting within a couple hundred yards of the president of the United States. But this guy also goes to Ukraine to fight in the war. Like he's been overseas. Who's he talked to? Like, what's that chain look like? And then suddenly he's out on the front lines in America, essentially going after the president. Like, there's so many red flags here. If you're the Secret Service and the FBI or the CIA, I kind of want to know who this dude is now.
So this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So this is what you'd see with an SKS. It would come with that wood stock with the bayonet lug. If you wanted to sporterize it, make it tactical, you grab one of these black stocks, drop-in stocks, you drop it in, and then you can add a banana clip to the bottom of it. Looks like an AK style, right? If you don't know anything about these guns, it would look like an AK style rifle. When I first saw it, I thought it was a Sega rifle, which would be imported with that Monte Carlo stock. But again, you look at this. I just had it up. Where is it? This image of, you can't tell anything from that, right? I mean,
yeah, it's super hard to see.
All you can tell is that there isn't a pistol grip, right? When I didn't see a bayonet lug, I was like, okay, it's probably not an SKS, but the bayonet lug could be somewhere in that chain link fence, and we just can't see it on this image.
It sounds to me like he went to Ukraine, learned how to use one of these things, set himself up a little shooting nest here, and then he gets to what golf course were they on? It was, you said it wasn't Mar-a-Lago. It was Trump International. So he just somehow gets to Trump International and sets this up on the right day, on the right moment. And he's a roofer from Hawaii who makes small homes.
This is the zoom in of the rifle that people were able to get from that image.
Yeah.
And this is the SKS with the drop in. It looks very similar.
Yeah.
Looks very similar, all down to the gas system, to the drop-in stock with the banana clip. So that's, chances are that's what he used. And again, this is the last. I feel like I'm a broken record for saying this. If you told me, and I don't support violence, but if you told me I had to go take a shot at someone 300 yards away, a communist surplus SKS in a drop-in Monte Carlo stock with a 30-round banana clip would be the last rifle I would pick.
I don't know. Well, hold on. Yeah, I know where you're going with this, but what if that's the message?
I don't know. It's possible. I mean, it's possible this was the only thing he could get.
Sure.
Because
keep
remember,
going. But yeah.
Convicted felon. He's a convicted felon who apparently only makes $3,000 a month. So he's not going to be able to go out and get an advanced armaments rifle or any kind of advanced weaponry. You open up Arms List in North Carolina or Florida, you see someone selling one of these SKSs for $500, $600.
Yeah.
You say, oh yeah, I got this. You've been over in Ukraine. You've seen people carrying these things in their back, their rearward troop duties. Because again, these aren't frontline rifles anymore. These are 1940s, 1950s design. These would be for ceremonial purposes or reserve duty. Or I mean, maybe they are Russian lines with these things. If they're really running out of guns.
But yeah, they're usually they're supplied for civilians, right? Is what typically
for
was
like
used
reserves.
yeah. So they don't give you the best stuff, right? And they give you the AK-47 if you're on the front line. And yeah, this could be the only thing he got, but man, there's so much to this here. Like, is he hanging out near those golf courses before the assassination attempt? Nobody notices the weird guy with the 2-colored hair hanging out, right? Nobody's the chatter that we hear about from the CIA and stuff like that. Nobody heard about any chatter with this, right?
So this is what I was just saying. This is a rearward Ukrainian soldier deployed with a Mosin Nagant, which is a World War II rifle.
Still a great rifle. It can reach out and it can reach out.
My Finnish Mosin is probably one of the most accurate rifles I own.
Yeah, it's and that's a prized one. And you could see how in the right hands you could.
Yeah,
even with open sights, you could do whatever. You could do whatever you want. 500 yards, easy.
And the reason they would deploy those is if you got a guy with a machine gun position and he's firing 7.62 by 54R, right? Okay, you take out 5 of those rounds and hand them to a soldier, right? You're already carrying that ammunition.
Yeah.
And anyone who's deployed with a Dragunov or a 54R chambered machine gun already has that ammunition. Yeah. It's like, oh, we gave him a rifle that's chambered in 308. That would be the equivalent here. Yeah. So he gets this gun. He's a prohibited person. Takes this shot. I'm not gonna say, oh wow, I wish you would have used a better weapon. But that'd be the last weapon I would try to take a multi-100-yard shot. You can do it. I mean, the arguments you're going to hear from gun owners oh, you can get that. Yes, you can take that shot. But it's not preferable.
No.
It's just not preferable. A cold bore SKS from 300 yards. Come on.
It'd be a miracle. Here's the other piece of it though, Max. Somebody got SKS within a couple 100 yards of the president on force.
Yeah.
Right? And this guy's a reefer who's been over to Ukraine doing recruiting around the world. We don't know where he's been, who he's talking to, how deep anybody. I mean, there could be more to this guy than anybody knows, or there's nothing at all, right? Maybe he's just some sort of chaotic agent that is just useful, but man, I don't know. It smells stinky. I mean, look at that. That's
So let's break this down. You see there is a GoPro hanging from the fence. He was recording this. He wanted this to be recorded and to be shared. You see that rifle? What we can also see hanging from the fence are 2 bags. Looks like a backpack. You know what's in there? Ceramic body armor.
Yeah.
That to me is wild.
He's taking a stand. He's taking a stand.
Yeah, so ceramic body armor is going to be lighter, right? Wow. It's also going to be 2 to 3 times more expensive than steel plates.
By far.
You're from that range. I mean, I guess if you're worried about Secret Service snipers, it'd probably be better to have the ceramic. But other than those like 338 kind of rounds, anything else you get from anyone else there, the steel armor would stop it. But this shows you like this guy planned this shit. He hung these things on the fence, peeked the rifle in between those 2 bags of body armor so that if he got return fire, he'd be a little bit protected. He was making a shield.
Yeah. He was trying to engage. Like, this is an engagement style act. He was trying to take a stand. It doesn't include if he was still wearing armor himself. He just made himself a shooting. It's not really a blind. It kind of looks like a blind. If you're a hunter and you've ever shot anywhere from a blind, the same things apply in the theater of war, right? It's just now you've got bigger weapons. And this looks like somebody who, I mean, I just don't know of anybody who thinks this way without being shown, right? They could be rare individuals that know this kind of stuff, But for the most part, these are the kind of skills that you obtain, you just don't have.
Or you spend a lot of time overseas in Ukraine. You learn about this kind of stuff.
Yep. You're making a point.
Chances are, if we were in a war zone and we were reserve, right, we were going about our day, but also the government saying, hey, be prepared in case Russian soldiers march through the town.
Yeah.
We probably would be getting information like this.
Yeah.
Like here's your SKS.
Yeah.
10-round magazine, right? It uses the same ammo that the Russians will be carrying. Go for it. So on the one hand, you have a guy that seems to have done, as a prohibited person, he's limited on what he could get. And it seems like he bought the rifle he could get off of Arms List or whatever local message boards he could get. Because those SKSs, they're a dime a dozen on those forums and stuff.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it suggests that he had an element of pre-planning and that he had enough knowledge to be dangerous. Right? Is this guy a long-range sniper? I would suggest no, because he could have gotten a deer rifle and it would have been probably a better choice. But obviously he knew enough to hang body armor off of the fence. I can't believe that he was engaged because Secret Service saw that barrel sticking out of the fence. Looks like there's bushes in front of the fence and behind it. Whoever was that Secret Service agent who saw that has to get an award or something for excellent
for them, right? Like that's another miracle we saw. The first miracle we saw is that he only got shot in the ear. A second miracle is that we didn't get another round off on him, right? So I think there's a little bit of providence there, but we can't have Donald Trump taking 2 assassination attempts, guys. If you can't see what's going on here, the world that there is a force out there that is trying to destroy Donald Trump and everything that your way of life stands for. Like this is an effort that's never happened since probably the American Revolution as far as political assassinations. I mean, like the gravity of this moment should really hit you, right? Because the world is coming down on Donald Trump. They're coming after us. And how much of this is it looks like chaos, but man, it feels like a plan. And you've got a whole bunch of people in this country now who've just walked over the border that if you were to put an AK-47 in their hands, you've got instant army. Right? So don't think that this is the end of something like this. More to come.
Yeah. And listen, I think Donald Trump needs to give a speech. I think he needs to give a speech condemning the rhetoric on the left. I want him to give a speech immediately after his first assassination attempt. He waited for the RNC to do it. He needs to give another speech. He needs to give a speech and say enough is enough. This is getting out of hand. Congress needs to come back into session and figure this out. Right? What this idea that Donald Trump can't get more security because he's just a former president and not an active president, when he's now faced not 1, not 2, actually technically 3, because they caught the other guy. He was just arraigned in court. The Iranian guy. He was just arraigned. He was just arraigned and charged. So there are a lot of assassination attempts being made on Donald Trump. You can't just say, oh, well, he's getting the most support he can get. I guess he just doesn't go outside anymore. That's what they tried after the first time. Donald Trump can't have
no more outside stuff.
rallies.
Right. But that's how terrorists win. But I also don't want to lose Donald Trump because we got to get him into office because this is not good. And the other part that really bothers me is I've heard that this was an unscheduled visit.
Yep.
So it's not on books, right? There's not a record. Nobody wrote down anywhere in a book that he was going to be there that day. And remember, if you're being blamed for being a conspiracy theorist, a conspiracy usually requires more than one person, right? That's how it becomes a conspiracy. One or two. The definition's out there. So how did this guy know he was at the right place at the right time to be able to put rounds down range, or at least in a position to put rounds down range behind ceramic plates and take shots at the President of the United States? That's a question you should all be asking yourself. Why would that happen? I don't know if that was your thunder and you wanted to go with that, but man, that thing's been grabbing me left and right.
That's the question that needs answering, right? So the pool, Donald Trump's pool that's with him, knew he was there, but this wasn't widely publicized. I've seen some reporting that this shooter, Ryan Routh, he might have scoped it out. But again, this wasn't Mar-a-Lago. This was Trump International. So I think it's like 15 minutes away. So Donald Trump lives at Mar-a-Lago. So you expect for him to play at Mar-a-Lago. You don't necessarily always expect for him to go 15 minutes down the road. That's like saying, oh, Donald Trump's in Bedminster, New Jersey, has golf club there, but he's actually golfing in New York. Right? It's a little bit different. So it's not something you can just assume, oh, he'll be there today. So the real question is, how did this guy know that Donald Trump was not only going to be at that golf course, but was going to be playing at that time? He was lined up, I think it was the fifth or sixth hole. So he had the timing right. I mean, it's one thing to know Donald Trump is playing that course today. It's another thing to know where he is on the course. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that would be like
20 more minutes and that guy shows up there and Donald Trump's already 2 holes past him. You know what I mean? So,
right. And if you saw anything from space, I mean, that would be a state level, like sponsorship and not like intel, right? So either it happens there or it happens from space. I mean, so somebody's surveilling the president potentially in that moment, and that's another scary thing, right? Our enemies could easily be surveilling him. But I know they're going to spend it. It was just one of those Archduke Franz Ferdinand moments, the assassin just happened to be there at the right time. There's precedence. And they'll try to feed us that line that it was just grand coincidence. But to know that he's on the 5th hole and where to scope out on the 5th hole. Nobody notices a dude or a group of people scoping out the same pieces and places day after day around Trump golf courses, right? I mean, that who would sponsor such a thing? Like this is intel, right? This is actionable intel that sounds like he is operating off of.
And who did he want to see? Who did he want to see the footage? Right? Was that GoPro footage? Was that GoPro footage for the world, for the masses? Or was that GoPro footage for whoever was paying him? Whoever was blackmailing him? You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. We don't know. But I'm tired of this narrative of, oh, he must have just been working alone.
Yeah.
This guy isn't a kid in Western PA who just woke up one morning, apparently decided to try and assassinate the 45th president. This is a guy who's rabidly anti-Trump, rabidly pro-Ukraine, connections to the Ukrainian government. I mean,
and theaters of war, knowing how to use weapons, right? A felon
wrote a book encouraging foreign countries to assassinate Trump, right? So you can't just say, oh, case closed, must have just been working alone, especially as you mentioned. It feels like he had to have some information to know to post up there at that time, at that hole, at that golf course.
And to be ready. He got 2 plates to tie up on a fence before Secret Service noticed him. Yes. I mean, there's so much here, and I got a feeling that when the news cycle hits tonight, in just a few hours, right? We're just a few hours away from prime time news, right? It's probably going to start hitting at in about 10 minutes, right? If anything starts 5 East Coast. What do you think the headlines are going to be? They're probably not. They're going to mention a Trump assassination attempt, but they're going to paint it, right? We're going to be sitting here on Wednesday reviewing how they're covering this. And the propaganda machine's going to want to just sweep it under the rug.
MSNBC is saying that this is a gun control issue.
Hasn't even gotten.
Yeah. I mean, it's a prohibited person. He illegally bought a gun, right? He
But
legally
he's the
bought a gun.
criminal for doing that. It's on him, not the rest of us.
It doesn't matter what laws you put into place. He was still going to illegally acquire a gun.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop.
And think about it. It gives context for wanting more gun control. Well, obviously, since your person has been, it's the assassinations attempts have been so often, it's obviously a gun control problem, right? I mean, talk about trying to be a double-edged issue with the Democrats, right? They get to hide it, but they get to use it as, justification for more gun control. I mean, it's like AI level stuff, right? Yeah, and that makes me worry too. Like if a government does have an AI and they ask it advice on how to do things, right? I mean,
well, that's the Mission
talk
Impossible.
about it.
That's the Mission Impossible movie.
Is it fiction anymore? Is it fiction anymore?
Yeah. That Mission Impossible movie, the latest one.
I haven't seen it and I want to.
It's the idea that the big bad is actually an AI that's gone out of control. That to me was it hit the closest to home. Like the idea of somebody getting a nuclear weapon and bringing it into like the Hindu Kush and like blowing it up there to start a war. That's more far-fetched than, Chat GPT became self-aware. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's where we are ultimately, unfortunately, heading unless we,
well, the thing is that, we've got NVIDIA. You're going to have AI in your GPUs, your CPUs. Right? Like how much of this is planned? And we're behind. If they were to just ask AI advice on something or just a war game with AI, right? You could a rudimentary AI to do war games, and you could start trying to make effective change based on scenario, right?
Here's news. New developments out that Ryan Routh was in that tree line for 12 hours. That suggests forethought and advanced knowledge that Donald Trump was going to be there. So that is that's far less spontaneous. I'm just going to sit in this tree line for 12 hours and hope he's there. This guy knew that Donald Trump was going to be there, which again, how does that happen? Is there a mole in Donald Trump's outfit?
Secret Service,
or in Donald Trump's advisors?
Yeah.
Is someone in the press pool sharing information they shouldn't? Or is this a foreign intelligence situation where they knew in advance Donald Trump was going to be there and they let their asset on the ground? No, I mean, we don't know, but he had to have been given some advanced knowledge from someone to know to sit in that fence for 12 hours waiting for Donald Trump to come by.
Have you ever heard stories about snipers who would crawl into a place and they take 2 days during the Vietnam War to get it? There's all kinds of stories of heroism by our military finest, right? But the bottom line is that these people have these skills that allow them to get to a place unseen. And that's sort of a skill you just don't have. That's a skill you got to learn. How does that happen?
Here's the charging document. The police have discovered that his cell phone was in that tree line from 1:59 a.m. until 1:31 p.m. So yeah, about
unbelievable.
A whole day, half a day. So a guy at 2 a.m. at Trump's property is crawling in the fence line, the tree line, and no, we'll allow it. Stashed a getaway car nearby. Right?
Because
I mean, I can't park illegally for 30 minutes without getting towed. This guy had his getaway car there for 12 hours.
And you're telling me we don't have technology that doesn't monitor stagnant numbers at a place like that? The thing is it's at a hotel, right? There's so many.
Yeah, you'll never be able to do that because that's a freedom issue. Like you can't have the government just spying anytime someone stops moving for 12 hours. But
nobody noticed, right? Nobody knows. you're at an entertainment venue. Like if you see something like that, it's not going to raise a red flag because there's people that stay at those places and lose phones all the time, right? Mm-hmm. But he was there. He crawled in at 1 a.m. Was that the window? Well, he had to get in there at 1 a.m. What time did he start making his way in? Dark? Is there video evidence that exists? I mean, what is I really hope Florida does an investigation because I think DeSantis and his crew might be a little more honest than what we might get from the investigative bodies from the federal government.
The other bit of this is we know that Ryan Routh, however you pronounce his name, used Signal, the same encrypted messaging app as as the first attempted assassin. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that he would want to use that going overseas, right? Talking to Ukrainians. I get that. But it's just interesting that it's not even like one use Signal, the other use Telegram, right? No, they both use Signal. And there are a lot of communications that probably aren't going to be discoverable.
Yeah.
So what is it about these Trump assassins that want to make sure that their communications are completely encrypted? Who's talking to them?
Yeah.
That they don't want people to see. And that's going to be something that needs to come out.
There's only two possibilities, though. It's either foreign or domestic.
Yep. It's one of the
It's
other.
only one of those two, right? Can only be that. So who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Is it going to be the foreign adversary? Which that's a scary prospect. I mean, 2 assassination attempts by a foreign nation would be earth-shattering. It would cause World War III. Like it would be hot. The world would be hot. But if it's a domestic adversary, who are they? Are they in power right now? Those will be the next set of questions.
Ryan Routh has publicly said he would die for Ukraine. Said it earlier. Is it all that surprising that less than a week after Kamala Harris, the mainstream media and the left, twisted Donald Trump's debate answer to say he wants Ukraine to lose?
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who's no longer over in Ukraine, can't win the war over there.
That.
He could win the war over here, though. Take Trump out, and Ukraine won't be forced to surrender, won't be forced to sue for peace.
I mean, it sounds like a message. So during the debate, was the vice president in veiled ways threatening the current opposition member to her power base, right? Makes you wonder who's actually behind all this. We'll probably never know. And if we do find out, people are going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's something behind all this. Who are they? What are they? Is it an actual shadow government? People used to make these crazy assertions in the 90s, right? You'd be listening to old school Coast to Coast AM. They're like, there's a shadow government out there running everything, right? And we all thought it was just conspiracy theories. But here we are, staring down 2 Trump assassinations where Signal has been used. I mean, they just have to be a small player.
Yeah. How is it that Donald Trump has to own the actions of everyone in January 6th? Anyone who did anything wrong, he owns the actions. But this is a guy who's online retweeting Democrat propaganda that democracy's on the ballot, right? That we should all die for Ukraine. How is it the Democrats don't have to own this?
Yeah. Why do they get a pass?
No. So we're going to keep looking into it. I mean, I unfortunately, I think we both said this probably wouldn't be the last assassination attempt. I don't think this will be the last assassination attempt because I think what you're going to see is, I mean, people just watch this guy survive. He survived it. And right now he's only been charged with gun crimes. Now, chances are they'll tack on more crimes. But he's only been charged with illegal possession of a gun and illegal possession of a gun with a defaced serial number. So possession of a gun as a felon and possession of a defaced serial numbered firearm. So he hasn't been charged with the attempted assassination. I guess they'll have to build that case. At the very least, this keeps him off the streets, keeps him behind bars, and carries upwards of 20 years behind bars. But people, the crazies, look at that and say, oh, wow, I can try to take a shot at Trump and I won't even be killed for it, I don't think this is going to be the last time. Unfortunately, I think there'll be more. Any final words? Wrap it up.
There was a GoPro there. I wonder what's on it before.
I guarantee he recorded other things.
Right. I wonder if there is a manifest. There's probably evidence on there, and we'll see. It'll be like Trans Manifesto Part 2. Right. It just
will not see it. We will not see it unless Ron DeSantis insists on it being part of a local investigation.
That's
yeah. We'll see. We'll see Joe Biden use executive privilege to block that stuff from coming in. That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, subscribe, like, comment, share. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on X, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So tune in for that. We also have the audio edition of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Audible, Podbean, all great places. Subscribe, listen to us during your commute. We try to make this as audio friendly as possible. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next time.
See ya.